Welcome to All Business, No Boundaries, a collection of supply chain stories by DHL Supply Chain, the North American leader in contract logistics. I'm your host, Will Hayward. This is a place for in-depth discussions on the supply chain challenges keeping you up at night. We're breaking beyond the boundaries that are limiting your supply chain. Today's episode is From Capstone to Career. DHL Summer Internship Program preps students for future supply chain success. Our guests are Ballow, Director of College Recruit Programs at DHL Supply Chain, Fran Oliveira Steingass, General Manager at DHL Supply Chain, and several recent DHL Supply Chain interns. Let's dive in. Okay, great. We've got a really exciting episode today. I've been looking forward to this one. Thought a really fun program and meaningful program that DHL's had in place for a number of years. We'll start with Caitlin and Fran, who can sort of provide background on what we do from an internship standpoint at DHL Supply Chain. And then we've got 6 current interns from this summer who will shed some light on their experience in the program. So, Caitlin, maybe first, could you introduce yourself and your role and provide a little bit of context on the internship program?
Absolutely. Well, thanks first and foremost so much for having me. Like Will mentioned, my name is Ballow. So I'm the director over our college recruit programs and been with DHL now for just over 9 years, of which I've spent over 7.5 years on the college recruiting team, which oversees our internship program. So the internship program has been with DHL for over 10 years now, and it is a program for interns for 10 to 12 weeks that they are at one of our sites or dedicated to one of our specific teams while participating in a formalized summer internship program. The goal of the program is ultimately to enhance students' business acumen through continuous learning and networking opportunities throughout the summer. They will have the opportunity to participate in on-site as well as general intern programming onboarding. And then we have a variety of different components from professional development, a speaker series, and then we also have site overview presentations that they'll participate in. And in addition, we have our Capstone project and event that I know we'll get into a little bit later as well.
Super. And Caitlin, how long has the program been in place?
Yeah, we've had the internship program over 10 years in DHL Supply Chain. In the last couple of years, it's grown pretty substantially. We started my first summer, I believe, with 78 interns. And this past year, we had over 270 that participated in our summer program.
Wow, that's terrific. And one of those participants I know was you, Fran. Can you introduce yourself and your current role at DHL?
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. Really glad to be here with all of you today. My name is Fran Oliveira Steingass. I'm the general manager at one of our Columbus accounts, so specifically in Etna, Ohio. And I have been with DHL now going on over 6 years full time.
Yeah, and how did you find your way to DHL? You were a summer intern?
Yes, I was an intern in 2016.
And where did you go to school?
I went to Ohio State.
Okay, good. So nearby here. Okay, so I think we'll get some specifics on individual assignments from our pool of interns today. But I did want to come back, Caitlin, to the sort of the structure of the program and a couple different questions, and maybe you and Fran can tag team on these. But what's the calendar look like over the year in terms of identifying interns, interviewing, recruiting, onboarding? And then let's talk about the Capstone.
Yeah, our team starts recruiting really at the end of August. As students are getting back on campus, we are on campus alongside them, attending career fairs, participating in classroom presentations or organization presentations. Through those interactions on campus, we will identify individuals that maybe are interested in our roles. And from there, they participate in a virtual interview with some of our hiring managers and then participate in what we call an intern day, which is a chance for them to come on site to one of our facilities, meet with different business partners, give a 3-minute me presentation about themselves to the business. They'll participate again in a few interviews, and then the hope is they're joining us in the May to August timeframe. So we recruit not only in the fall, so September, October into November, but also in February and March into April. So it's a chance for us, again, to get on campus, meet with students in person. We have over 60 target schools that we leverage and partner with throughout the season. And again, we're going to schools that typically have a supply chain program, or for some of our other more specialty roles, business analytics, data analytics, industrial engineering, some of the other majors that we also recruit for.
you place the interns geographically, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we ask every candidate where they'd like to be located. We have what we call campus locations, where we have a density of, 5 to 30 plus sites in a given area. So majority of our interns are placed in one of those campus areas at one of our sites. They're a dedicated resource to that site throughout the summer, or they could be dedicated to a specific team here in the Columbus area. We try to really match our interns with the need of the business. So if they're interested in being in, let's say, the Atlanta, Georgia area or Mechanicsburg, PA, we have campus locations there. But let's say they want to be in Salt Lake City or in Las Vegas, we have facilities there as well that we can place them in some of those one-off sites where they're going to have some really meaningful projects throughout the summer.
Great. So Fran, I'm assuming that having benefited from being an intern, you've posted a few on your site?
Yes.
Good. And what kinds of assignments do you look for setting the interns into, and what do you look for from them?
When I have an intern, I really want to make sure that at the end of the summer, they fully understand, especially if they are an ops intern, what their future could look like with DHL and what does an operations supervisor role look like. So throughout the summer, I'm really looking to challenge them to step into those leadership roles by leading pre-shift, staffing and managing labor, establishing goals for the day and speaking to opportunities and achievements, and then ultimately towards the end of their internship program, having a few days of full ownership over a department just so they can truly grasp the day-to-day of what it takes to be an operations supervisor at DHL. And hopefully that helps give them a really good picture as they're making those tough decisions heading into their senior year about what their future is going to look like.
Yeah, great. So Caitlin, from a historical performance standpoint, I know we use this as a big mechanism to get talent into the organization. How many interns are with us the summer after their junior year, then become full-time associates after their senior year? What rough percentage?
Every year, we typically offer upwards of 80 to 85% of our interns. So last year, we offered 88% of our interns. This class so far, we were offering close to 86% of our interns. And we typically see anywhere from 50 to 60% offer acceptance rate, just depending on the year and the number of interns that were offered.
Okay. So now I want to get to the, no offense, Caitlin or Fran, but the fun part. And I'm going to go in alphabetical order. So interns, I'll first ask you to introduce yourself, where you go to school, and where you were assigned this summer. If you could talk just briefly about the project that you worked on and how it ties to your education that you're involved in today. And then lastly, what was the most surprising thing? So if you can remember those things, I can help prompt you as well. But Allison, we're going to start with you. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so my name is Allison. I am a human resources major at Valparaiso University, and I am here at the SCSC on the college recruiting team and talent acquisition. So I get to work with Kaylin every single day, and it's really lovely. So the project that I worked on for Capstone was looking at associates' well-being on the EOS survey and then how we could improve that before this next EOS survey. And so we specifically dived into some potential barriers that associates were facing. So what we found was a lot of language barriers and then some quick win solutions as to how can our sites be helping our associates who don't speak English as a first language and make sure that they really feel that we care about their well-being. That ties really closely with a lot of what I do in school, because a lot of the extracurriculars that I'm in and a lot of the classes that I take focus on the people. So my Society of Women in Business extracurricular focuses on the women in the College of Business and how we can make sure that they feel they're supported. And, just making sure that tying those two is really cool, and being able to see how wellness in both school as well as DHL it's really cool to be able to make that connection.
You said SCSC and you said EOS. Can you tell our listeners what those things mean?
Yes, so the SCSC is the headquarters for North America here in Westerville, Ohio. And then the EOS is the employee opinion survey that the associates take once a year.
Okay, great. And then thing that surprised you?
The thing that surprised me the most, I'm going to go a little bit broader and say just the culture of DHL and the ability that we as interns have to explore interests and really learn about the business as a whole. The amount of people that I've been, on different teams able to talk to and connect with, not only during Capstone, but also during my entire internship, has been amazing. And to be in a culture that really emphasizes that was so surprising, and I appreciate it so much, and I loved it.
Good. Well, thank you for that. Danny, you're up next. Tell us about you.
Danny Thorson. I am an incoming senior at Ohio State studying operations management. I'm stationed at the Heath, Ohio site, about 30 miles east of Columbus. This site is like 10 minutes from a pipe insulation manufacturing facility. So we get all their pipe insulation. We're the only site that carries it in the OC network. And it makes up probably 50% of our inventory, about 50% outbounds. And the product is completely loaded by hand by the associates, boxes ranging from 20 to 60 pounds. It's a pretty labor-intensive process. I've done it myself. It's pretty hard on the shoulders. And basically my manager just threw it at me and was like, find some way to make this better, less manually intensive, maybe find a way to replace the labor. So I've just been kind of researching automated solutions, ergonomic solutions, pretty much anything to just make it not so physically intensive. And what surprised me about DHL, how many different areas that DHL services and touches. I know it's an enormous company, but I attended the Certified Supply Chain Specialist class, and through that learned how many different areas DHL offers services that I wasn't really aware of, how many different sectors and just the supply chain division that DHL services. So one thing that we always talk about in my ops classes, especially in my Six Sigma courses, are just continuous improvement efforts. So the project that I'm working on, I feel like is something where it's kind of just taking a process that they already do right now that the associates in the site is familiar with, and just finding ways to even make it a little bit better for the future.
All right. That's great. That takes us then to Joel.
My name's Joel Workman. I'm an operations intern. I'm also a rising senior at the University of Memphis studying finance, minoring in supply chain. My side projects and my capstone project were kind of one together. So my capstone project was the feedback loop. So here at SD1, we have 3 different ways that feedback is taken from associates on the floor, passed along up to management to make changes and create action items. They actually have their own process that we have implemented into the warehouse, and that they're called PAOs, Process Adherence Observations. And so what those are, it's pretty much 4 audits that cover anything from workplace organization to safety and culture to job processes or even visual management systems that are in the warehouse. And the supervisor does one of those surveys each day of the week during their shift. And they do those either with an associate or they're just watching over their department or station and just auditing it them by themselves. So what we did as interns, we're pretty much in charge of revamping that because it become kind of stale. There were some issues with the questions themselves. They weren't updated since they were made back in 2020. So there was questions asking about process, which isn't even used in the warehouse anymore. There was a lot of dead data in the surveys. It was very not useful for getting actual feedback and trying to hear what the actual issues are on the floor. So that was more of my side project, was revamping those questions and those audits. All 4 of the categories were more general to the whole warehouse. We took 2 of them, the job processes and the visual management, because those 2 surveys in particular are going to be very different depending on the department you're working in. I mean, selection tower isn't going to have the same process as the people at the pack station or the people at inbound. So what we did is we made those surveys more customized to the department that they're in, as well as changing out some questions that were obviously outdated and adding new ones depending on the process. And that was my favorite part about the project, was that in order to do it successfully, I had to go to each department and get involved and do what they do so I could learn what needs to be asked. Because if I was just going to sit back and watch, I wasn't going to actually know what it's like to be in their shoes and understand what they want to be asked and be heard on. So that allowed me to get greater insight into all of the different processes in our warehouse, as well as work on more of some HR skills, which I had never thought I'd be doing a lot of. Interviewing with associates, asking them what they would want to be asked, what they would want management to know more about, and then just doing a whole lot of testing on the floor. And then getting the surveys, there was also an issue with reporting them. The Power BI report was kind of clunky, outdated. It wasn't user-friendly for the management, so it was hard for them to actually go in and see how many people answered a certain way or what was the amount of questions that failed, and they can't really even see department-specific things either because there was no surveys which were department-specific. So we revamped that Power BI report, made it better, and the summary page especially allowed us to be able to show important data that our customer was wanting to see. And so my major's in finance, minor's in supply chain. It didn't really touch my major at all, but just from a total learning standpoint, I got to learn about every process that goes on in our warehouse here and every department and what their role is in the overall job.
Yeah, Joel, I was thinking the hands-on HR stuff in particular is probably a really nice complement to what you do on the finance side. Really rounds that out.
It was, yeah. It was an experience that I wasn't expecting, but I'm really happy I got to have.
Yeah, good. So John, tell us about John Kemp.
Absolutely. So, hello, everyone. John Kemp, Senior Business Information Technology student, originally from Jacksonville, Florida, but attended North Carolina A&T State University. And currently, I'm interning with DHL.
In your role there this summer, what were your duties?
I had a number of things to do. I was very involved, and I thank DHL for that. The first thing was working with their senior data analyst, Jonathan Richards. He's been a great mentor, and the task that we were working on was studying the gap time analysis between associates. And they wanted to see between associates what are some times that they should be reaching in between their scans to make the proposed rate of production. So they wanted me to study the time that the associates are currently at utilizing the LMS and the WMS, like the different systems they have here to track all the data and information between each associate, and to come up with a number or a set range of how much gap time they can have in between each scan to make sure that they're still staying on top of doing what they need to do. DHL understands that, of course, associates are people too. Sometimes things happen, but they also want to make sure that, we're staying on the path of success. So that's been my main assignment this summer.
Okay, so a couple definitions for our audience: LMS, WMS, and gap time.
Labor management system, house management system is ultimately the technology that's used to study the associates and the productivity within DHL. Generally speaking, you want to observe the times that they have when they check in and check out. You want to observe in between each scans of each product that they're looking at and taking from the shelves, things like that. Just their regularly duties. Ultimately, these two systems study and observe the operations and productivity between each associate. It's like a law. And gap time is essentially just the time in between one scan to the next scan within a warehouse. Of course, you're dealing with a lot of different products, and one of the main things is moving it from A to B and just putting it where it needs to be. So an observation is that I've been doing is just how long does it really take to do your job essentially within your day-to-day and just in between that day-to-day for each of the different functions or task or responsibilities.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you. Well said. So how did you find your experience this summer related back to your academic studies?
I think it related a lot. Ultimately as a student, North Carolina A&T has prepared me greatly to make those next transitions and be impactful in the workplace, not just when it comes to the hard skills and technical skills, but also soft skills, interacting, engagement, leadership. But I would say classroom-wise, I've taken some classes when it comes to Python and SQL coding, business programming, management, things of that nature. But the transition was really good for me, and DHL has given me a lot of good opportunities to relate in both aspects of just being a professional, being an analyst, because they've given me hands-on experience as well as guidance. Again, the management here, the general manager, Jason Crawford, as well as Javon Ross, the assistant general manager, Jonathan Richards, and just the whole Lakeland team. While I've been working through my internship and working on my project, if I had any questions, they were always open to it. If I asked to sit in on meetings and listen to more, they would help me do so. DHL really gave me an opportunity to fail and try again. They gave me an opportunity to mess up, make mistakes, and still learn from it, where I was able to get honest feedback and constructive feedback, but as well as get the opportunity to, really deep dive and learn as much as I can. So it's related greatly because I was able to take those skills and really apply it.
Anything that happened this summer that you didn't expect to encounter in your internship, good, bad, or otherwise?
I think what I would say that happened was just the overall experience of, this is my first time working in a warehouse. I interned at a couple other places before, but this is my first time interning at a warehouse as well as with DHL. I didn't really know what to expect, but what I've learned, not just within this site, but also, as a Capstone project, we were able to go and visit other sites, is that I was able to see just the way that management and leadership communicate with each other. It's a way that's very honest, it's very open, and they have very, again, positive but transparent conversations because DHL has a high standard of excellence that they want to continue to achieve. And I'm able to see that even on the ground level with all the different management and interactions, whether it be HR, systems, training. At least I can speak mostly from my site, but when visiting others, I also got to see just the transparency and honesty of what needs to get done, as well as acknowledgement and camaraderie and teamwork and morale that I got to see on a day-to-day basis that I didn't expect. Was surprising to me because, certain times you believe that management is just, up here and then it's everybody else. That's how some businesses may be ran, but I didn't see that with DHL at all. It was very collaborative.
That's great. Well, thank you, John. All right, Lane, tell us about your experience and about you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Will. So my name is Lane Smith. I am a student at the University of Alberta. I'm entering my 4th year with an operations management major. And this summer, I was at a retail site in Alberta, Canada. So in terms of how my projects relate to my school, I had 2 main projects this summer, my first being the Capstone and my second being a labor planner. So for my Capstone, I worked with my group and we created a tool and a strategy to help implement warehouse transitions. So that is decommissioning one warehouse and moving all of that product into a new warehouse. So as we created that, I made an Excel tool, and largely that relates to my school because as an operations management major, we do a lot in Excel. I'm asked a lot what it means to be an operations management major. If I had to sum it up in one word, I would choose optimization. And I think that's really what this tool does, is it optimizes the move. And similar to that, so that was my Capstone, I've also created a labor planner, once again, to just optimize labor allocation within the warehouse. So where should our labor go on any given day? Which part of the warehouse, which functions they should be in? So once again, that really relates to my schooling, a lot of Excel. I've learned a lot of Excel strategies in school. And kind of taking that question a different way too, I've learned a lot of soft skills as I've done these projects that I also learn in school. So things such as teamwork and public speaking. So just my role at DHL here, I do a lot of public speaking. I lead a startup meeting at the start of every shift, and all that sort of stuff really relates to a lot of the presentation work we do at school. So it's really cool to see how what I'm doing here relates to what I'm learning. And then moving on to what surprised me the most about DHL is really how dynamic it all is and how many moving pieces there are. So I primarily work in the inbound. So some days I run the inbound receiving dock, and sometimes all the trucks show up at once. There's a lot of moving pieces, everything happening all at the same time. And I didn't realize how much that happened, how much dynamic movement there was. This was my first time in a warehouse. So it's really interesting to see how it plays through and how many different roles there are in a warehouse that I never would have even imagined existed.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that with us. So you mentioned Capstone, and I want to come back to Caitlin and Fran to first ask, what is the Capstone? How's it designed? What's its intention? And then how do you organize it across the pretty big cast of interns that are so geographically dispersed in the DHL network?
The Capstone event is honestly, I would say, my team's favorite part of the summer. It doesn't happen in a few short days of planning. It starts a year ahead of time. We start to pick the dates for the next summer now. And so for our interns and the business, it does start at the beginning of the summer. Interns are assigned a regional sponsor and a Capstone project sponsor, along with the Capstone project topic and a team. And it's throughout the summer that they work for 2 to 4 hours on average per week on that project, where they're then preparing to present it at the Capstone event. The Capstone event is a 2-day event that, again, typically takes place at the end of July. This year, day 1 was focused on our interns. We were able to open up with an icebreaker, allowing for our interns to network with one another, followed by 2 opening speakers. We had Abby Partee, who is our global lead for our certified programs, and Dave Ames, who is the leader of over talent acquisition, talent management in our certified programs for North America. This year, they discussed teamwork, growth, change, leadership, opportunity, and ultimately getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Interns then have the opportunity to participate in 2 industry workshops that they get to choose what they want to learn about that day. So this year they had selected from accelerated digitalization, go green. We talked about smart ops. We had a session on our certified supply chain specialist of what is certified programming and what does it mean at DHL. We had a session focused on career development in our college recruit development program, winning friends and influencing others through a professional development workshop. And then finally, this was a new one this year that we had great reviews on, which was a DEI&B workshop, which gave an overview of what DEI&B is at DHL. And we had a panel of representatives from all of our ERGs across North America. They were then able to participate in a solutions design workshop, partnering with the Red Cross to build over 2,400 kits for blood drives in our region. They then got to go on a site tour and see one of our local sites here in the Columbus area, and then attended our Capstone networking dinner, which is really where the event kicks off for both our interns and for our business partners. This year, we had over 490 participants. On day 2 of the event, we had 55 capstone projects presented. They had the chance then to sit in on networking panels with recent college grads that went through the internship program. And then we had 540 matches for our speed networking rounds, which is a chance for us to partner our interns with business partners, either in areas that they're interested in geographically, or maybe it's individuals within a specific part of our business. They also put together 212 pounds of donations to the Mid-Ohio Food Collective during one of the activities while they were presenting. But ultimately, this year was the largest event we'd had, 575 plus participants over the 2 days. And we typically follow the same type of schedule, but it's a chance for our interns to really show off all of the hard work that they've done this summer and for the business to get to see our interns.
Yeah, it sounds like an action-packed couple days. How was it, Lane? Was it fun?
It was a lot of fun. It was really great to travel down from Canada and be able to meet everybody. We have a lot of intern calls online, and it was great to put faces to names. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. And Joel, were you on a remote team as well? Did you have counterparts elsewhere in the country or in the region?
So all of my partners on my project were in my region, so we were all able to work here in the Memphis site. They were able to come up to our site.
Okay. And how about you, Allison?
A majority of mine were also here at the SCSC, and then we had 2 who were at some sites around the area.
Okay. And so did you collaborate with the ones offsite virtually, or were they able to come face to face?
We did weekly check-ins that were virtual, and then when we went to administer our survey to the associates, we went to their sites, and then we also met up at some other sites in the area. And then for practicing our project, we had all of us come into the SCSC and practice in the board of directors room.
Okay, great. And Danny, how was it doing your presentation? I mean, did you have a big crowd, and was the group nervous, or how'd you feel?
So we were the first group to present in our room, and I picked up a couple of my teammates. We actually got into a car accident maybe an hour before we were supposed to present. So that was a little nerve-wracking, but I think we killed it. So
You got into a car accident on the way?
Yeah, like 30 seconds after we pulled out, got into an accident and then presented about an hour later.
Wow. I hope that's the first and last time that happened. But the presentation went okay?
Yeah, the presentation went really well. I think they liked our idea. We practiced it a bunch. I think we were all pretty nervous anyway going into that, but I think what we joked around was, well, we got the hard part out of the way. So
Right. Can anybody rival that story? A lot of shaking heads. Well, great. I wanted to thank all of you for being interns this summer and for volunteering to come on the podcast and tell us a little bit about it. It's something that I know Caitlin and Fran and a lot in the organization are very proud of the experience that we set up for you all, and hope that you get a good chance to see what it's really like in the day-to-day in the supply chain world and with DHL. With that, Caitlin, I don't know, Fran, if you have any parting comments, but I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Ultimately, our program is what it is today because the business loves our interns. They're able to bring them on, and they're able to actually do real work that's going to impact the business. So really proud of this year's group of interns, and I am really looking forward to getting back on campus and recruiting for our summer 2024 class.
I definitely echo what Caitlin said as well. Managing the interns has been a lot of fun for me in the last few years. After being an intern, I try to help them take that pressure off of the Capstone event and try to be themselves, which is ultimately what we want to see. But the interns are really inspiring. They bring great energy to the operations, and they're so adaptable and open to learning. They've definitely made a big impact on me, and each summer I look forward to meeting more interns and getting to interact with them through the program.
Fantastic. Well, to all the interns, I hope to see you in full DHL uniform starting next summer. Again, wish you best of luck for your senior years. Enjoy that. And again, thanks. Good luck. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate us and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also re-listen to our entire library of episodes on our website, dhl.com/ABNB podcast. See you next time.